Welcome to episode 2 of Solo Factory. I'm Graham. In the first couple of videos of this, we're going to be doing a fair bit of work around getting that nuclear generator rebuild finalised. Let's jump into that section. Let's jump to that section quickly just to go through a bit of a list of what my plans are for this area. So I'll jump to that one. That'll be fine. Now on top, we're all on the top level here. So first thing we need to do is I want to extend this floor out to the end there, and then put a bit of a wall around the logistics level, which is under here. But ultimately what I need to do is I need to redirect and repath a couple of these, 4 of these belts down here. There are a couple of belts that run quartz. There's a belt that runs quartz, it's just at the very bottom there, runs quartz to the far factory, you can see it there. And then there's one that runs plastic, rubber and aluminium ingots back to the main factory from that little sub-factory. I want to move all those 4 belts, I want to move up onto here and run them through here. That will basically, I think, ultimately mean that I will just redirect some of these through conveyor lifters into this to begin with. It'll be a bit messy. Ultimately, the idea would basically to probably extend this all the way out to there and maybe repath it to there or something, and then do something with that floor, because sadly this building, as you can kind of see by this, if I just come over here and do this and put a foundation right there, it doesn't match up. So I've got a bit of a misalignment there of the platform, because when I built this section, I didn't align it properly with the main factory, which this building has been. So if I was to extend this platform, this foundation, all the way out to and try and line up with that, I'd have that same misalignment. I need to have 2 choices. I need to rebuild that building, that whole factory area, or sort of hide it in some way. Having to figure out what I'm going to do with that one. So at the moment, we're going to think about how we're going to repath some of these belt runs. But there's actually 2 that I need to deal with first, and that's that one on the top there, and this one here. They're running nitrogen gas from this setup. That there's a packager which is taking raw gas, putting into an empty fluid tank, and then belting that all the way up to the factory, where it goes through another packager which basically does that in reverse and sends the empty one back again. It just goes through a big loop like that. Because at the far end in the main factory there is a requirement for nitrogen gas for one of my other productions. So let's jump back to there. So if we zoom across this floor here, so just here is this factory. That's the packager. I've already started to deal with this problem. I'll explain what I'm actually doing in a moment. Packager, which takes these guys, turns it back into the gas, which is fed out through this pipe, and that pipe ends up coming into these 2 blenders, which is making cooling systems. What I've now done is, to get away from having to just deal with those 2 belt runs essentially, is I have brought in some more gas. Just come to the end of this factory here. I've brought in some gas into this train station. This train station actually takes gas from there, comes down to here, comes all the way along here, comes into that one, unloads to go to the nuclear generator section. When it comes back, not empty but has some partial amount of gas, comes into here, empties what it's got left, loops back out there and goes back to there and repeats that cycle. So what I'm essentially trying to do here is just use a bit of that sort of leftover gas from that process to come into here. This is just about empty. So that's now empty. we'll now start to see this pipe will start to slowly empty. The amount of flow is indicated by those rings going from right to left, and now it's just about stopped. And then the amount of sort of a visual indicator of how much is actually in the pipe is indicated by how wide the gap is between these two. And eventually it'll go down to, that'll come down to 0, and these will contract, and that'll then flow through the pipe eventually and be empty all the way through. So, but the problem is haven't quite got enough when it comes back. And here's a train coming in now, so it's coming in up there. Just going to photo mode here to do that. That's the train coming in with 2 full tanks. Interesting enough, the capacity of this is 2400. The capacity of the tank on the train is only 1600. So I need to do a little bit of an issue there. I need to try and get more gas into. I think I might need to. Not too sure what the solution is. So these videos are not going to be me just talking and then you showing you everything I do, because that would be exceptionally boring. I'm going to outline what I need to do in a particular step. I'll then do that particular step. The video will be sped up, cut, etc. And then I'll just come to the end of what I've done. I'll show you what I've done to fix that particular issue that I've got, and then move on to the next little rebuild list item on my list. So that's my soul. I need to fix this gas problem first. I've got a gas problem. Fix that, and then I can go back and rebuild those belt runs. So, yeah. I'll try and have a bit of a play and figure out what I can do with this process. Okay, I think I have sort of temporarily, for the want of a better term, solved my little nitrogen gas issue here. What I've done is I've extended each of this platform to be 3 fluid platforms. So it's got the train station at the back here, which is actually where you can control the timetable that it does. So it goes edit timetable, goes the belt, starts at nitrogen gas, which is the actual starting point, goes to the belt freeway, and then goes to factory north station, which is this one. This one's got three fluid platforms. You can see 1, 2, 3. The belt freeway, which is actually the station over there, has 2, and the one where it starts from has 3 as well. And I've actually redone the have added in a more pressurized extraction point. So let me just run over to here, and we will teleport to that station, which is that one. So that's where the gas is actually coming from, that mangled mess of pipes. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 actual extractions, which is these guys, resource well extractor, and collectively through that mess of pipes, which I'll have to redo at some point, fit into these 3 fluid platforms. That one's is almost full, about halfway, sorry. That one's under 1,000, and this one is under 400. The train comes in, fills up the 3 that it's got, or fills up the 3 to capacity of what it can do based on what's in these, and then goes to the fluid station, which is just about to come into. And you'll see that one will be sticking out on its own, so it won't unload that one. But that one, which is full, and that one, which is full, will empty into these 2, which has got about 1,200 and about 900. Now what happens when these trains actually unload, these things basically stop extracting from it. So you can't even look at the properties of it. But this thing stops fluid, in this case fluids, going into the pipes. Once it unloads, and I can actually edit when the odd edit prompt comes up, if edit, there we go, this will now start flowing, and that's now actually coming out, and that will now be full, as will that one. But you can see we're now taking back 3 tanks that are not necessarily full, but they've got something in them. They'll hang a right down here and come into here. That one has got 391, and that one's got 75, so they'll both be emptied. That one will be probably pretty full, so it probably won't fully empty. Which is what that's doing. So that leaves them in there, and they go back empty. And that one's got, if I can get into it, that one's got about 933 going back, whereas that's got, and that one will be basically full. So that's enough, more than enough nitrogen gas to feed into our production stuff down here. So as a result of doing that and sorting that out, I then needed to figure this out, which is the packager from the other end. So I've now got, so those I don't want to have this in practice anymore. Okay, so yeah, I've now got to go into what's under the industrial fluid buffer, which is basically fluid equivalent to one of those, to hopefully end up with no more fluid tanks coming through, but there's still obviously more to come through. Let's just jump to the other end and see how many. As I've now stopped the empty ones going back, I'm hoping. Okay, so still more to come out. Okay, at some point, this string of. I'm hoping that very soon we'll get to the point where the fluid tanks to our right, which are empty ones going back to be refilled, actually stops. There it is there. So we've got still got all of those empty fluid tanks to feed back into our setup. So that means we need to. I probably need to do a. As I don't actually care for this fluid, I don't need it. I have an option with those fluid buffers to literally just empty them, and that essentially just deletes it. Delete the contents of it. Oops, I missed that. So I'm just going to climb up this ladder, which will allow me to get me this teleporter. By the way, these teleporters are mods. They're not part of the base game. They are very useful to getting around real quick. I just got to get to my name, and it's that one. And what I'll do is I'll just edit this one, and if we do this full pipe network and flush it, that essentially empties the fluid buffer. So it will now start pumping this stuff out of this packager. Might just have to do this a couple of times until everything's completely dealt with. I'll then probably just manually move the empty fluid tanks into a container underneath, at the very bottom of this factory floor, I have a series of just containers that are just full of stuff. For example, this has just got just bits and pieces. So you've got ingots, copper ingots, steel ingots, that sort of thing. Versatile frameworks, which I don't need much of anymore, but I've got heaps of them anyway. And then down this end we've got some raw materials, some made materials on this side. Some of these containers are actually empty. There's more of them over here. At the very end here we've actually got the materials left over from the Fixmas Christmas little thing that the studio at the game does. These are all filled full of packaged fuel, which I need for my suit. I managed to somehow build absolutely heaps of them, so I've got I think it's quite a lot, over 100, nearly 142,000 of them. And that's just storage that I come down and use as needed. I haven't got anything. I haven't got a manufacturing process at the moment that's actually filling that stuff in. Because I simply don't need to do it at the moment. That may change in the future. So I'll just I'll find one of these. I'll find one of these that's empty, and I'll put the fluid tanks into them. Hopefully, there's not more than what do they stack to? I think they stack to 100, I believe. Yeah, and so far there's only it's only nearly 700 in there, and that's getting full. So hopefully by the time we do that a couple of cycles, we'll be able to then remove the need for that process, and we can dismantle all this stuff here and ultimately get rid of the belt ultimately as well. But what that now means is I've now got a bit of free reign to go back to here, and we can have a look at. We now know we've only got to feed 4 of these back. Just got to feed 4. We've got the quartz one that goes to the far factory, and we've got the 3 that go back the other way. So that's going to be the next thing. So I'll come back at the end of that little bit, and I'll show you how I achieved all that. Okay, I've now managed to, welcome back, I've managed to route or reroute crystal raw quartz. It's not particularly clean. It'll do for now. I may end up redoing this again in the future. Essentially, the quartz used to come in on this bottom level of all down here. Used to be this one. Used to be on this bottom level here. Actually had a splitter in there that took the feed from the original sort of the source, split it up to this other factory floor, and then kept the rest of it just kept on going around to the far factory. Because I actually need raw quartz to go into a set of constructors just here to make silica, and silica is actually used in the second stage of the uranium waste management process. It's used in that second blender there. So I've now routed it. So that's where I needed it. That's where it came from. So I've now repathed it along here. It's a little bit messy when it comes in, because actually the raw quartz is actually starting. Actually starts down here, so it actually comes a long way. The belts that bring that in go really long and really untidy. So I've made this main conveyor belt platform now 3 across. It was 2, and we've now run this one. This runs all the way through here. So it runs all the way. It's going to replace all of this essentially. So it comes in here. It actually starts on the other side there. Sort of see through the gap just there. There's a set of conveyor belts. One of them brings in quartz. There it is, just at the bottom there. You can just see it at the bottom there. Brings it in under here. It was splitting that way and going that way to the end, and was right and splitting to the main factory, which makes it a little bit more complicated again. Now bring it in here, bring it up through a little conveyor belt lifter, bring it across here. You know, really ugly kink into there because I couldn't line it up properly. Into a splitter again. Splits it, goes down that way. Splits goes this way to the main factory, which then goes through a, just get rid of that, goes into a conveyor belt lifter, or this one takes it down, and then it actually joins up with the original conveyor belt run that it was already joining into. So that's kind of neat. That's not too bad. That will be improved again in due course, but at the time being it'll just be enough. It'll be good enough for now. So now that's rerouted one of them. It's a bit, also yet again, a bit ugly at the far end. Let me just get to a let me get to a oops. Let me get to a teleporter so I can teleport to the other end of the generators. So now it comes all the way along there, and then gets to another lifter here, goes down to there, takes a bit of a funny hook, and then joins the original belt run that goes along up to there. So it's okay. It's okay for the time being. It will be changed. Hopefully it'll rerun. I'll have to rerun it again at some point. All right. So our packaged nitrogen is still being dealt with. So at the beginning of the next video, I'll deal with that one. There's where it actually. There's the layer, very last. That's the last empty one. Is just there. Is just there. So that's got to keep feeding through there, and then ultimately we'll end up with. Then we're just looking at the backlog of the package ones, which, as I said, is just starting along that run there to there. This goes into there, and then that'll be the last one of those, and then that run out of empty fluid tanks, and then that will be the end of that little issue. So that'll be it for episode 2 of Solar Factory. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back hopefully in a couple of weeks. Bye.